The sun had just begun to cast its morning glow over IP Man's quiet dojo. Students were moving gracefully across the wooden floor, practicing each form with precise discipline. It was a normal day, one filled with calm, order, and respect. But that calm was about to be shattered. A young man stepped through the entrance, a figure small in stature but radiating a presence that immediately drew attention. It was Bruce Lee. His eyes were sharp, his movements already carrying a subtle intensity, and his energy seemed almost electric. Whispers started to ripple through the room. Everyone knew Bruce Lee was talented, but no one could predict what he would do here. IP Man, the revered master, looked up from his stance. His calm, composed demeanor never faltered. He had faced many challenges before, but there was something different about Bruce. The air seemed charged as the two men met each other's gaze. Silence enveloped the dojo, broken only by the faint sound of footsteps and the rhythm of anticipation. Everyone expected a polite demonstration. A student would later recall. But something in Bruce's stance told us this would be different. He was not there for compliments. He was there to test himself against the master. And in that moment, the unspoken tension was palpable. Bruce bowed respectfully, but his eyes burned with determination. IP Man returned the gesture, equally respectful, but with a silent challenge that made the room hold its breath. This was not just a fight, it was a battle of skill, of strategy, and of mind. Every person present sensed it. Every movement, no matter how small, carried the weight of anticipation. The whispers began. Who will move first? Will the master overpower him instantly? And then, as if the dojo itself were holding its breath, Bruce Lee took the first subtle step forward. It was quiet, almost humble, but everyone could feel it. Something extraordinary was about to unfold. No one could have predicted what was about to happen next. Even the master himself. Audience prompt. Before we dive in, who do you think would win in this epic battle, Bruce or IP Man? Comment your pick now, don't scroll past. The dojo was dead silent. Every student, every observer, felt the tension coil in the air like a spring. Bruce Lee, though young, moved with a speed and precision that seemed almost unnatural. Each step he took was deliberate, calculated, testing the waters. Studying IP Man, there was respect in his eyes. Yes, but also an unstoppable ambition burning beneath the surface. IP Man, the master, remained perfectly composed. His stance was fluid yet anchored, every muscle ready to react. He had seen countless challengers before, yet there was something different about Bruce. The master's eyes narrowed ever so slightly, analyzing, predicting, preparing. Every subtle motion mattered. The room felt like it had shrunk around them, every heartbeat magnified. Every breath weighted with anticipation. Bruce made the first move a quick, almost imperceptible step forward, probing, testing IP Man's response. The master reacted instantly, but he didn't strike aggressively. Instead, he flowed, absorbing Bruce's energy, redirecting it with perfect timing. The clash was subtle but electrifying. Bruce's speed surprised everyone. Even the students, trained to see the slightest flicker of motion, found themselves gasping at the precision of his strikes. The tension grew as Bruce pressed on, combining his agility with a creative, unpredictable style. IP Man's calm, controlled movements seemed effortless, yet the spark of surprise flashed in his eyes. For the first time, a student's unpredictability was challenging him. Bruce's movements weren't just physical, they were mental, testing the master's patience, judgment, and adaptability. The onlookers leaned in closer. Every jab, every block, every footstep was like a story being told in real time. Is Bruce Lee actually catching up? A student whispered. Can he really match the master? Murmurs spread through the room. Cameras, or more accurately, the memory of every person present, recorded every detail, every flicker of motion. The audience outside the dojo would never believe the intensity of what was happening inside. IP. Man's expression never hardened. Yet there was a flicker of something almost imperceptible, an acknowledgement of Bruce's brilliance. This wasn't just a fight of skill anymore. It had become a battle of wits, instincts, and adaptability. Bruce anticipated, IP Man responded. Every move was a conversation silent, yet deafening in impact that the crowd was on the edge of their seats. You could feel the mental energy crackling in the room, almost as if time had slowed. Every dodge and counterstrike demanded focus. Every glance weighed intent and respect. Both men were masters of their craft, but Bruce's ambition was relentless, challenging the very limits of what the master could predict. Have you ever seen someone completely defy expectations and catch everyone off guard? Type unstoppable in the comments and tell us your city or country while you're at it. And then, just as the tension reached its peak, Bruce Lee shifted his stance slightly, preparing for the next level. Every student's eyes widened. They could feel that the next move would be the one that could change everything. For the first time, it wasn't just respect versus ambition, it was challenge versus mastery. And in that silent, electrifying moment, the audience understood. This was no ordinary duel. This was history in motion, a battle of intellect, strategy, and unyielding spirit. The dojo seemed to shrink around them. Every movement Bruce Lee made was precise, lightning fast, almost unpredictable, but IP Man met each one with the same calm mastery. It was no longer just a test of speed or strength. It was a battle of minds, instincts, and sheer focus. Every block, every step, every shift in weight carried meaning, a silent conversation between student and master. Bruce's eyes burned with intensity. He wasn't fighting to humiliate IP Man. He was fighting to learn, to challenge himself, and to see how far he could push the limits of his skills. But even as he moved with lightning speed, there was respect in every strike, a silent acknowledgement of the mastery across from him. IP Man, ever composed, was no ordinary teacher. He had trained countless students, faced opponents who relied solely on brute force. Yet here, Bruce was different. His movements were unpredictable, innovative, and daring. IP Man's mind worked rapidly, calculating the trajectory of each strike, anticipating the subtle shifts in Bruce's stance, the weight of his steps. Every counterstrike was measured, yet the slightest flicker of surprise betrayed the master's respect for the young fighter's ingenuity. The students and onlookers were mesmerized. Some gasped audibly at Bruce's speed. Others leaned forward as IP Man's subtle counters nearly brought him off balance. Whispers spread through the crowd. Can Bruce actually match the master? Is the master surprised? Every second stretched, the dojo charged with tension so thick it was almost tangible. Bruce pressed forward, testing IP Man's limits, trying moves that had never been attempted before in the quiet halls of the dojo. But IP Man adapted instantly, shifting, redirecting, and absorbing Bruce's energy without losing composure. Every clash was a lesson, every pause, every dodge, every feint was an unspoken dialogue. Bruce's innovation met IP Man's centuries of refined skill. Time seemed to slow. For 22 minutes, the battle continued not in loud strikes or dramatic crashes, but in subtle mastery, precise movement, and unwavering mental focus. The audience could feel the tension in their own bodies, their hearts racing with every motion. This was more than a fight, it was a masterclass in discipline, intuition, and respect. IP Man's eyes flickered occasionally, a subtle acknowledgement that Bruce Lee was unlike any student he had faced before. And Bruce, with each passing minute, wasn't just testing IP Man, he was testing himself. Could he remain calm under pressure? Could he push his skills beyond the known limits without losing respect for the master before him? Every observer was trapped in the intensity. They felt the battle as though it were theirs. Every strike, every dodge, every micro-movement was a heartbeat, a thought, a calculated risk. The mental chessboard had shifted. This was no longer about teacher versus student. It was about two forces, equal in will and skill, testing the very boundaries of mastery. If you had just 1 minute to completely change the outcome of a battle like this, what would you do? Comment your move below. Let's see who thinks like Bruce Lee. And just when it seemed the tension could not climb any higher, Bruce Lee adjusted his stance slightly, a tiny movement that spoke volumes. IP Man's eyes followed him carefully. The next strike would test more than skill, it would test respect, intelligence, and the courage to face someone who might just be your equal. The dojo held its collective breath. Outside, if this moment could be seen by millions, they would all feel it, the raw intensity, the mental strategy, the emotional weight of two legends meeting at the pinnacle of their craft. For 22 minutes, they were locked not in combat of fists, but in combat of intellect, instinct, and heart. And the audience knew one thing for certain. Whatever happened next would be history in motion. The air in the dojo had become electric. 22 minutes of relentless focus had passed, yet neither Bruce Lee nor IP Man had yielded. Every strike, every block, every movement had been measured, precise, and mentally taxing. The observers were no longer mere students. They were captives of the battle, hearts racing, eyes wide, utterly absorbed in the unfolding mastery. Bruce Lee shifted subtly, almost imperceptibly. It was a tiny adjustment, a small twist of the hips, a fraction of a second faster on his lead foot, but it carried enormous significance. IP Man's eyes flickered, a shadow of surprise crossing his otherwise composed face. For a brief instant, the master had been caught off guard. The crowd collectively leaned forward, sensing the subtle shift. Something extraordinary was happening. Until now, IP Man had been in complete control. Every move, every reaction had been deliberate, a lesson in timing and precision. Yet here was Bruce, unpredictable and daring, challenging the master's assumptions. Bruce's innovation was not reckless. It was calculated genius, a test of strategy, creativity, and courage. He was no longer just a student in training. He was a force to be reckoned with, compelling the master himself to adapt. The students whispered nervously to each other. "Did you see that?" One muttered. Even the master hesitated for a second. Bruce is really pushing him. Cameras would have captured the slightest changes in posture, every micro-expression, every tense breath. The tension had become mental as much as physical, a duel of intellect and instinct, not just fists. IP Man blinked, recalibrating, his movements flowing yet deliberate. He adjusted to Bruce's subtle feints, his counters sharper, his awareness absolute. But the flicker of surprise remained, evidence that even the greatest masters could encounter the unexpected. Bruce's energy and creativity had entered the dojo like a current, testing the very limits of IP Man's mastery, and then came a sequence that made the room gasp. Bruce executed a rapid combination of strikes and pivots that were unconventional, almost chaotic to anyone untrained, but utterly precise to the trained eye. IP Man responded flawlessly, yet even he could not conceal the faint lift of his brow, the recognition that Bruce's brilliance was real, that the young fighter had earned his attention and respect. The audience felt it too. Every heart raced, every thought paused. They were witnessing history in motion the moment a student challenged a master and forced a reconsideration of what mastery truly meant. The dojo seemed suspended in time, each second stretching into eternity. The line between anticipation and disbelief blurred, trapping everyone mentally and emotionally in the moment. If you were watching this live, could you feel the tension? Type shocked if you felt your heart racing too. IP Man's expression softened slightly, not in defeat, but in recognition. There was a silent acknowledgement that Bruce's skill, courage, and ingenuity had reached a level worthy of respect. The audience could feel it, a shift in energy that transformed the fight from a contest of power to a demonstration of mutual brilliance and ingenuity. Bruce paused for a heartbeat, a moment of subtle control, allowing the intensity to simmer. IP Man responded with equal calm, but the atmosphere had changed. The balance had shifted. Bruce was no longer just a challenger. He was a catalyst, a spark igniting the master's awareness of a peer-like equal emerging in his presence. The whispers turned into murmurs of awe. He's really testing him. I've never seen the master move like this before. Every observer knew they were witnessing a pivotal moment, one that would be remembered long after the dojo fell silent. And then, in that charged silence, Bruce prepared for the next strike. Every muscle poised, every mind alert. The dojo's walls seemed to vibrate with the tension of anticipation. The turning point had arrived. The fight was no longer just a duel. It was a battle of innovation, respect, and mental mastery, and no one in that room would ever forget what came next. The dojo felt alive. Every heartbeat, every breath, every subtle movement between Bruce Lee and IP Man radiated tension so thick it could be felt by everyone present. For 22 minutes, the battle had been relentless, a test not of strength alone but of intelligence, intuition, and courage. Now something extraordinary was beginning to unfold, shift from competition to mutual recognition. Bruce Lee's movements had become sharper, more precise, yet there was a calm in his eyes, a quiet respect for the master across from him. He was no longer only testing IP Man. He was testing himself. Every strike, every feint, every pivot was a lesson in mastery, pushing both men to the edge of their abilities. The young fighter's energy was relentless yet controlled, like a storm contained within a perfect form. IP Man had felt the subtle shift as well. The master had spent decades refining his skill, mastering the art of anticipating opponents, predicting movements before they happened. Yet Bruce's unpredictability, his fluid, innovative style was forcing IP Man to adapt in real time. It was no longer about asserting dominance. It was about acknowledging brilliance and responding with precision. The flicker of admiration in IP Man's eyes was undeniable. The students and onlookers could hardly breathe. Every block, every strike, every counter was a lesson in patience, timing, and respect. Some gasped aloud. Others whispered, "This is unbelievable. I've never seen anything like this." Even without loud crashes or dramatic noise, the intensity was palpable, a mental chess game played with fists, balance, and instinct. Bruce executed a rapid combination of strikes, moving with lightning speed and incredible precision. IP Man absorbed each move, redirecting energy with elegant counters. The dojo seemed suspended in time, as if the world itself had slowed down to watch these two forces collide. Each micro-movement was significant. Each pause was pregnant with meaning. Bruce's ambition met IP Man's mastery in a dance of intellect, strategy, and unspoken respect. And then, the moment came that shifted the energy completely. Bruce executed a subtle feint, a move so innovative and unexpected that it momentarily unsettled the master. IP Man responded yes, but there was a softening of tension. A recognition that Bruce was not merely a student testing limits, he was a kindred spirit, a peer challenging the boundaries of martial artistry. The room felt the change immediately. Gasps and murmurs spread through the crowd. Have you ever faced someone who challenged you in a way you never expected? Type challenge in the comments and share your story. The mutual respect between the two men became the focal point of the room. Bruce's eyes met IP Man's not with defiance, but with determination tempered by admiration. IP Man's eyes mirrored that sentiment, calm, yet acknowledging that he was confronting a mind and spirit equal to his own. This was no longer a fight in the traditional sense. It was a celebration of skill, intelligence, and courage, a duel of mastery that transcended ego. Every observer felt the emotional weight. The battle had evolved from a contest of strength into a lesson in humility and honor. Bruce's relentless drive and IP Man's unwavering composure were no longer opposing forces, they were complementary, pushing each other toward perfection. Every movement, every glance, every shift of weight carried meaning that words could not capture. The dojo seemed to pulse with intensity. The fight had reached a level beyond physicality. It was now about mental acuity, respect, and recognition of genius. Bruce Lee had proven himself capable, pushing the master to adapt, think, and respond like never before. And IP Man had demonstrated that true mastery was not about dominance, but about acknowledgement, precision, and integrity. As the final seconds of this intense sequence passed, the room fell into a tense anticipation. Both men paused, measuring, analyzing. They were equals in every sense: skill, intellect, and spirit. The crowd realized it. This was not a student merely challenging a master. This was a meeting of legends, a battle that would be remembered for generations. The dojo was thick with anticipation. Every student, every onlooker, could feel the tension vibrating in the air like an electric current. Bruce Lee and IP Man stood facing each other, muscles taut, breath steady, but the atmosphere had shifted. No longer was this a battle of student versus master. Something far greater had emerged: mutual recognition, respect, and awe. For over 22 minutes, the two had exchanged moves, lightning-fast strikes, subtle feints, and perfect counters. Each maneuver had been a test of skill, intellect, and instinct. But now, something extraordinary happened. IP Man, the legendary master whose reputation spanned continents, paused for the first time, his eyes locking onto Bruce with a mixture of admiration and incredulity. Bruce's chest rose and fell as he maintained his stance, alert but composed. He had pushed himself to the absolute edge of his abilities, and yet he had not crossed the line of respect. Every strike, every pivot, every calculated feint had been a conversation of skill, not aggression. The room seemed to hold its breath, every observer sensing that history was about to be made. Then, softly, but with undeniable gravity, IP Man spoke. His voice, calm and steady, carried across the room. "We're equals." The words hung in the air like a shock wave. The dojo went silent. Students stared, mouths slightly agape, struggling to comprehend the magnitude of what had just been acknowledged. The master himself, the man whose mastery had seemed untouchable, had recognized Bruce Lee not as a student, not as a challenger, but as an equal in skill, strategy, and spirit. For Bruce, the moment was electric but quiet. He did not smile arrogantly, he did not boast. Instead, he nodded slightly, a subtle acknowledgment of the profound honor bestowed upon him. It was a moment of mutual humility, two warriors recognizing each other's brilliance without ego. Without showmanship, the audience erupted in silent awe, their collective hearts racing. They had been trapped in this mental and emotional battlefield for 22 minutes, their attention stretched, their admiration earned. Every subtle movement, every strategic pause had drawn them deeper into the narrative. And now came the emotional payoff. The master admitting equality, The student achieving recognition. When was the last time someone completely surprised you and earned your respect? Type respect in the comments. Let's see how many of you have felt this moment. IP Man stepped back slightly, lowering his guard while still maintaining his composure. Bruce mirrored the gesture, both men now relaxed yet fully present. There was a profound silence, not of tension, but of shared understanding. The battle was over, but the lessons were eternal. Observers felt it in their bones. They had witnessed something far beyond physical combat. They had witnessed the meeting of minds, the collision of talent and respect, and the affirmation that greatness is recognized through humility and mastery, not dominance alone. Whispers ran through the crowd. I've never seen the master admit this before. Bruce Lee. He's truly something else. The dojo itself seemed to vibrate with the weight of the moment, a space temporarily suspended in history. Every eye, every heartbeat, every pulse of breath had been captured, recorded, and etched into memory. Bruce and IP Man bowed to each other, simple, silent, perfect. It was not just a bow of respect. It was a bow of understanding. One generation acknowledging the brilliance of another, one master recognizing the brilliance of a student who had transcended expectation. And as the crowd exhaled, reality sank in. This was not just a fight, it was a moment of legend. A story that would inspire countless others. For the audience watching online or hearing the tale later, the mental trap was complete. They had been guided through every second of anticipation, tension, and awe. The climax delivered a profound emotional and psychological payoff. Greatness is tested, respect is earned, and true mastery is recognized when ego is set aside. The dojo had finally settled. The air, once charged with anticipation and tension, now carried a sense of calm reverence. Bruce Lee and IP Man stood facing each other, no longer opponents, but equals, warriors bound by mutual respect, skill, and understanding. What had started as a test of strength and speed had evolved into something far greater, a lesson in discipline, humility, and mastery. Bruce's breathing slowed, but his energy still radiated intensity. He did not boast, he did not gloat. The acknowledgement from IP Man, the master, was reward enough. Every student and observer in the room felt the gravity of what had just occurred. They had witnessed a rare moment where ambition met mastery and mutual respect, triumphed over ego. IP Man's expression was serene yet proud. He had confronted a student who challenged his assumptions, pushed his limits, and earned recognition without arrogance. The master's acknowledgement, where equals, was not merely a statement of skill, but a testament to character. The dojo had seen that greatness is measured not only by strength or technique, but by honor, discipline, and humility. The students began whispering to each other, sharing their awe and wonder. I can't believe it. Bruce Lee actually forced the master to adapt, one murmured. And IP Man. He admitted equality. That's incredible. Every observer felt inspired, trapped in the mental and emotional gravity of the moment. This was more than a fight. It was a story of perseverance, intelligence, and mutual respect that transcended time. Outside the dojo, news of the encounter would spread far and wide. The story of Bruce Lee and IP Man would inspire generations, not because one had defeated the other, but because they had pushed each other to their limits while honoring the craft. It was a lesson in how true mastery works, testing boundaries, learning continuously, and always maintaining respect for those who came before you. If you believe true greatness is about respect, not just victory, type legendary in the comments. Where are you watching from? Share your city or country. Bruce and IP Man bowed once more, a silent ritual that symbolized everything the fight had taught them and everyone watching. It was a bow to skill, to dedication, to courage, and above all, to mutual recognition of human potential. No words could capture the depth of the moment, yet the dojo itself seemed to hum with its significance. For the viewers, the lesson was clear. True mastery is never about defeating others, it is about pushing oneself, earning respect through skill, and honoring the craft and those who embody it. Bruce Lee had risen to the challenge. Ip Man had responded with wisdom, and together, they had created a moment of legend. As the students and onlookers slowly departed, the echoes of the encounter remained. The story of Bruce Lee and Ip Man was no longer just a tale of martial arts. It was a timeless narrative about courage, respect, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. And for millions watching online, it became a mental and emotional journey, a trap of awe, inspiration, and admiration that lingered long after the final bow. If you were inspired by this story, type respect in the comments and subscribe for more legendary tales. Share this video with friends who love martial arts, courage, and epic battles of skill, because stories like this are meant to be remembered.